Hey everybody, welcome to week 25 of the Other Side Sports Show. This show today is going to be all football. College football is back. NFL football starts 2 days on Thursday. So today's show is going to be all about football. Matthew, John, how you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful.
Doing pretty good.
It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, even though it feels like a Monday.
Yeah, definitely felt like a Monday.
Yeah, but it's good to have football back. We got football to talk
Yes.
about. Gonna have more football to talk about every week until February at this point. So, a lot of football to talk about, and so I'm excited. MLB playoffs start pretty soon too, so that'll be good.
Hey, Josh, on the stream, it shows the chat. I don't know if you want to make it full screen or not.
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay. It just shows it weird for me then.
Yeah, it's fine. So let's just start off with talking about some of the college football results from the weekend. We'll start with Michigan and Notre Dame. Notre Dame beat Michigan. I don't remember the final score. You have the final score on
24-17.
24-17.
24-17. So at no point did Notre Dame really look threatened, though. I don't think Michigan ever really kind of threatened them for the lead. So Evans, you're a stout Michigan hater. So why don't you start us off and talk a little bit about that game, and then do you think Notre Dame are legitimate contenders for let's just say for the college football playoff berth, not necessarily the national title?
It's tough for them without the conference championship because when it's all said and done, the way Michigan looked, I don't think it's going to be looked as a huge win later on in the season. Because in my opinion, Michigan looked like an 8-4 football team. I mean, Notre Dame literally was able to come out in the second half and completely just play conservative and still win, and only giving up 10 points in offense. I got to see more from Notre Dame because I still think they're a little overrated. Wimbush looked a little crazy in the second half with a couple of his throws. He can't pass the ball. He's not like a quarterback that's going to take him to the playoffs yet. In my opinion, I got to see more from him. He's a run-first quarterback. So I don't think the win versus Michigan is going to make me turn into this Notre Dame lover that they're going to come out and do all these things this year and go to the college football playoff. They can go like 10-2, 9-3, have a good year. I just don't see them as a contender for the playoff yet.
Yeah, you said Michigan looked like an 8-4 team. When's the last time they haven't? I mean, that seems to be with Jim Harbaugh. That mediocrity.
They don't have an offensive coordinator. He calls the plays on offense, and that's what you get.
But ever since he's been there, they've been like an 8-4 kind of team. I mean, like it's in Notre Dame. I think I said this last week. When I was talking about them, is that they have moments of brilliance and they win these games, and then they have these games where they just look like, what are they doing? And it's I don't
trust Brian Kelly. Yeah, I don't trust Brian either.
He the one time he actually in a big time moment had his big win was when that game, but I don't even think he was there. I think that was the game with Cincinnati when he left Cincinnati, that bowl game against Florida. I think he had left for Notre Dame, and it wasn't even him. I mean, so like you said, I don't trust him. That's the word I would use. I don't trust Brian Kelly at all. He gets the athletes, but he just doesn't get the consistent.
That program is almost just like Michigan, to where every year we hear they're in the top 15. Shea Patterson, this, whoever on Notre Dame, that. It's like it's the same thing every year that we hear about both these programs, and they turn out to be. I mean, Notre Dame had a good season last year. I think they beat Miami in a bowl game, but I think they were 10-2 and then won the bowl game. So, but
they always have a couple of duds. That's what I'm saying.
Not having a conference championship kills them being an independent.
Yeah,
I will say watching that game, it didn't look like two top 15 teams.
No.
I was sorely like you can watch a game even if the final score is like 10-7. You can watch a game and be like, okay, that's a top 15 defense and a top 15 offense. They're just clashing, and they're not getting anywhere. It didn't look like that. Like the teams, the play with the whole game just kind of looked sloppy.
It wasn't even just like the players though. It's just the play calling you were saying. It was simple college offenses. Like the Michigan offense was literally one read shotgun passing when they were passing, and then everything else on offense was an inside zone run, and it wasn't working.
Right, and the defensive lines for both teams looked really good, but I really feel like that was a product of just terrible offensive line play.
And there was another weird Jim Harbaugh moment. 4th and 5 inside his own 50. You're only down 10 with 11 minutes left in the third quarter, and you're going for it. I don't know. I'm not gonna rip Jim Harbaugh too much tonight, but he deserves to be on. If he can't go like 11-1 this year after that game, he should be on the hot seat.
So the question, the original question was, are Notre Dame contenders? So you tell me which games they lose. Okay, you've got 10 Stanford at 8 Notre Dame as it stands right now on September 29th. Stanford or Notre Dame?
At where was it at?
It's at Notre Dame.
Stanford looked good. I'll take Stanford.
Okay, and then you've got we'll assume just for the purpose of this talk that Notre Dame wins that game. You've got Notre Dame at Virginia Tech, who just murdered Florida State.
At Virginia Tech, tough place to play. I'll take Vatech.
Notre Dame.
Okay, and then a little down the road, you've got Florida State visiting Notre Dame, even though they just got blown out. They were ranked before this week, so.
Notre Dame.
I would take Notre Dame as well. And then you've got final week of the season. You've got Notre Dame at USC.
That's a just as of right now, I'd probably say Notre Dame, but
I think the telling thing just with the schedule is they're probably going to lose at least one of those.
Yeah.
Potentially two. And I think that's kind of where we're coming from. Like, they're not going to make the college playoffs because they don't.
And that's what I think hurts them when they are independent. One, they don't have the conference championship game, and then the other way, you play all these teams that are considered their rivals: USC, Stanford. Then you throw Florida State in there, Michigan, all teams who are normally competitive, and so you're setting yourself up for failure almost because you're going to lose at least one of those games more than likely in college football.
Right. Yeah. So I agree. I think I agree with you guys. I don't think Notre Dame makes it to the college football playoff. I think they're very hard-pressed to do that at any time in the future unless they decide that they want to move into a Power 5 conference. So we'll move on to topic number 2, and that's Miami losing to LSU. That game was a blowout, was it not?
Good call, Josh.
Yeah, I called that one, but we'll talk about that later. So if you guys haven't seen the AP poll, the original topic for this was how far will Miami fall and how far will LSU jump. The AP poll released this afternoon. So Miami fell to 22 and LSU jumps to number 11. So LSU is up from 25, I believe they were ranked. And Miami was number 8 all the way down to 22. Matthew, do you think that Miami and LSU got the ranks that they deserve for week 2?
We can't hear you, Matthew.
Yeah, your mic's muted.
Sorry, yeah. I think when you look at the teams above LSU, I mean, there were teams that were already kind of up there, and they didn't have anything that would make you drop them. So I think they clearly jumped everybody else who was in front of them that lost. So I don't think you drop Miami out of the top 25 because as bad as they looked at the beginning, you
Rozier was awful.
But see, he was awful last year.
That's what I'm saying. He looks like the same quarterback.
I don't understand what Mark Richt's fascination is with him. I know that Cozy got suspended for that game. I'm still kind of curious what he did.
Right.
I texted him to get a report for the pod, but he didn't get back to me. But anyway, yeah, I think that's right because those first games are really tough, and I think that you kind of saw after halftime that Miami started figuring it out a little bit more. I mean, he did start to hit some of those throws, and the defense kind of locked in a little bit better. So I think it's going to be very interesting. LSU may have a quarterback for once. Josh, I think you and I were talking about, LSU in the quarterback situation, but I think they actually finally got one. It's kind of scary for the SEC, to be honest with you. That defense.
They finally were smart enough to instead.
Wait! Stop! No, before Emmons goes, Matthew just said that defense. When I said SEC defense last week, Matthew was like, "Yeah, that's not the case with LSU, though."
No, I said
talking about Auburn.
No, I said the quarterback.
We were talking about winning big games at the SEC.
I'm gonna go back and watch. I'm gonna go back and watch. You guys both definitely made fun of their defenses.
I would question any college football knowledge I have if I question LSU's defense. Any defense.
Because we were talking about Auburn's defense prevailing over Washington, and I said that's why I pick LSU, and you guys were like, LSU doesn't really follow.
We were saying the SEC team normally prevails, not their defense.
And I said their quarterback, LSU's quarterback, is the reason I'm picking against them.
All right,
because no matter how good their defense is, it doesn't matter.
I'll send you guys the clip. Go ahead, Emmons. Go ahead, Emmons.
I don't really have. Yeah, I think LSU deserved to jump up like they did it. I mean, they dominated that game. I don't really see anybody behind them who deserves to be ahead of them.
I think Penn State should have dropped more than 3, but they're not in front of them at least. I think it's good because Penn State dropped behind LSU, which is
yeah.
good.
I'm fine with them dropping 3 only because it is week 1, so weird things happen. They looked awful, but if that game happened, like they deserved it too. If that game happened in week 4, then I'd be more concerned. But it happened in week 1. Miami 22 is fine. They don't deserve to be dropped out of the top 25 yet, but they deserve to be right on the borderline of questioning if they should even be there.
Mm-hmm.
Funny thing about this AP poll is there's been one Wisconsin lover who's put their lonely vote in for their number. They're getting a 1 vote.
They are.
They got one vote each the last 2 weeks. So someone's hoping for Wisconsin to get up there.
Do you guys think it's fair that Washington stayed in the top 10 despite being 0-1?
Browning looked awful. I don't mind them only dropping 3 spots though, because
they did play a top 7 team, so a top 9.
They didn't get blown out.
A top 9
that was
team.
a close game.
Yeah,
it was a close.
I think
game.
I think if I had it my way, I'd have them at 11, Stanford at 9, and LSU at 10. But I don't hate them being at 9.
See, I think personally, I think LSU is in a good spot because, like you guys said, there's nobody really below them that I would say, hey, they should definitely be above LSU. The only team that would really come to mind would be the team right underneath them at Virginia Tech.
Yeah,
they did beat a 20-ranked Florida State pretty easily. 24-3, I believe, was the final score with that last night. And so I would maybe lobby for Virginia Tech to be 1 spot ahead of LSU, but I'm not really mad about that. I think Michigan should be ranked above. Not Michigan. I think Miami should still be ranked above Michigan, Boise State, and UCF, though. Personally.
I think your AP voters though don't really watch the games. They kind of look at it and see Michigan lost by 7 and said, "Oh, they lost by 7 on the road. They can only drop this much."
Yeah, possibly, but it was an ugly loss.
But see, what I think
it was a bad loss.
With them leaving Washington in the top 10, I'd be kind of curious to see what they're wanting to see from these teams behind them to jump them. Like if they're, you know what I mean? Like it'd be really weird if you got a 1-loss team and you've still got undefeateds after a couple weeks, unless Washington's beating these top 25 teams. I'm kind of curious to see what their reasoning for that was.
Yeah,
because it was kind of close, but there's a huge drop between 10 and 11. But between 9 and 10 with Washington and Stanford, it's pretty close.
I would say
5 votes, right?
Yeah, I would say that it looks like I could honestly see LSU jumping Washington if all the top 10 teams just pull off win streaks over the next couple weeks. I could see LSU jumping Washington, but I think Washington is probably hard stuck ahead of Stanford until they lose another game, I think.
They play this year, right?
Who knows?
Oh, yeah. I think I don't know if they're in the same division. I don't pay attention to the Pac-12 that much.
I think, they're not the Pac-12, they're the Pac-10.
Right.
So that'll move us on to our final college football question, and that's Auburn. So they were number 9. They ended up beating number 6 Washington. It was a close game. Probably the best game of week 1. And then they got moved up to number 7. So they're still behind Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma. So the question that I have for you guys, Emmons, should Auburn have been pushed into the top 5?
The huge win, but I don't think, maybe if they were at 6 instead of Oklahoma, but I don't think Bama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Wisconsin, even though they didn't play an equal opponent, I don't think they did anything to question if they were a top 5 team or not. I think Auburn proved a lot, but I still have questions about their offense and their quarterback. But I think I still think that I like the top 5 where it's at.
I don't think it's not like they blew them out. You know what I mean? Like if they would have blown the top off of a top 10 team like that, yeah, sure, go for it. But I think it's all going to work itself out.
It's the week 2
so
AP polls. These polls won't even matter at the end of the year because it's all about the playoff committee.
By the way, Stanford and Washington play November 3rd.
Okay. It's at Washington, right? If you close already, it doesn't matter. I mean, we'll
So I
talk
didn't
about that
close
game.
it. Yeah, it's at Washington.
Yeah, I'm fine with the top 5 being what it is. I think all 5 of those teams, in my eyes, right now, are the 5 best teams in the country, and I don't have
As
an
good as
issue with
Ohio
it.
State looked, I don't even care who they were playing. When you put
Yeah,
up
their
that many
offense looked
points,
insane.
and your head coach isn't even there.
Yeah,
I
their
mean,
offense looked amazing.
Yeah, you can't move them above that.
I'm not going to question their defense until Urban comes back. I'm not worried about that.
And they actually played a Power 5 school, to be fair.
Yeah, I thought so. I didn't think.
Yeah,
it was
played Oregon State.
Yeah, Oregon State.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so no, you definitely can't put them top 4. Yeah, I'm fine with the way it is. For Oklahoma in that what used to be the Big 12. I mean the Big 10.
Although I think Oregon State went 1-11 last year.
Oregon State went 1. Hey, they're still a Power 5.
But they're still a Power 5. It's
No,
not
and
like
they were good. They were
brought
good
in-
a few years ago. They were good that Oregon State Oregon rivalry was nice for a few years
Yeah,
there.
it was. It was.
I just had a weird feeling that they did have a really weird record last year, like a really weird year. That they went and lost to Oregon 69-10.
Well, they lost to Ohio State 77-31. So
Hey,
33.
they've improved. Maybe they'll win
33, whatever.
big games this year.
They were in the game with Stanford last year, 15-14. Look at them.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't change it.
Okay. Yeah,
I think that top 10 is fine. I mean, I don't see anything.
I agree. Week 1, it's too early to guess, I think.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting once we get to week 13 and everybody's like, well, this team should be in there because they beat this team in week 4
Right.
and yeah, so
UCF.
yeah, then it'll be interesting at that point, but I don't really have an issue with it. Auburn's schedule really just comes down to their last game against Bama. So, if they beat Bama, then they're good. If they don't beat Bama, then they're probably out of it. So, what does it matter?
Yeah. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's going to come out. LSU, Auburn, and Bama, they'll figure each other out.
Yep.
So we're gonna move on to our NFL topics now that we've covered. We've kind of covered the college weekend, and the first thing is the huge news that kind of shook the NFL over the weekend, and that's Khalil Mack being traded with a second-round pick to the Chicago Bears for 2 first-round picks and their second-round pick of this year, I believe, is the trade. So it's a second next year and Khalil Mack for 2 firsts and a second-round pick this year. So, Matthew, I'll let you start off with this one. Does the Khalil Mack trade change your perception of the Bears in any way? Do you think that they are now a playoff team? Because if I remember correctly, just like me and Emmons, you had them with a losing record whenever we.
No, he had them at 10-6.
Yeah, I'm at 3.
He had Lions and Bears at 10-6.
Oh, okay. But either way, they're still not in the playoffs for you at that point.
Yeah.
So, do you think that
Probably not,
do you think that pushes them into the playoffs at least? Does it change your
I
perception?
mean, yeah, I almost kind of see it as a Rams situation from last year, right? I mean, they have their second-year quarterback, right? They got some pieces around them, and then they go off and they've hit some pieces in the draft, Amos and all of them. So I think that they've added a stud now. I think they make that Rams push like we saw last year. I mean, I don't know necessarily that they win a playoff game, but I could see them having that big push that we saw last year from Los Angeles. So I think that they're saying, hey, we were 1 or 2 pieces away. We can afford to make this move. So yeah, I think that this bumps them up to a playoff spot.
So I guess we can talk about it whenever we do our final predictions for the NFC South a little bit later. We'll talk about the playoff scenario. So I'm curious to see who you think they push out. If
I have an
if you think
idea.
they're gonna take a playoff spot. Go ahead, Evans. What do you think about this Khalil Mack trade?
Sorry, I'm wiping my tears away for my poor little quarterback. I easily jumps them into 3rd place in the division if they weren't already there. I had them at 7-9. That pass rush is scary. That defense is scary now. For the 3 big money quarterbacks in that division, that's a scary signing for all of them.
Especially an injury-plagued Rodgers.
Yeah. I think the Bears could. I think Matthew brought up a huge and a great point, a great example. The Rams. It's almost a very similar scenario. I can see him making a playoff push. I wouldn't put them there yet. I still got to see it from Mitch Trubisky. Just like I probably would have said last year about the Jared Goff. But it's a scary move for the NFC North that was already, if not the best division in football, one of the best divisions in football. So you had one of the best players on defense in the league to a team like that. It's scary, especially for me being a Lions fan. It's back to last place for me, unfortunately.
Back to last place, he says. It is pretty scary, just for the simple fact. I will say one thing that makes it a little less scary is that they lost, I believe they lost Leonard Floyd for the year.
Oh, did they lose Leonard Floyd? Okay.
Let me check that before I go throwing that out there, but I'm pretty sure he's done for the season.
Don't need Leonard Floyd tweeting our show, Josh. I mean, I guess we could. That would give us good exposure. Go ahead and rip away.
No. So Leonard Floyd returned to practice. They lost somebody. I don't remember exactly who it was. They lost somebody for a considerable amount of time as a pass rusher. Oh, maybe it was Aaron Lynch. Maybe it was Aaron Lynch they lost. I don't know. I thought they lost somebody for the season. Maybe not. It makes them a better team. Definitely their defense. But I just look at like the Broncos of last year. Like the Broncos were a top 3 defense statistically, and they still finished at the bottom of the barrel. So unless Trubisky takes like
that's my thing. It's Trubisky.
Unless Trubisky takes like he doesn't even need like a monumental step forward, just like a Jared Goff step forward. Not a Carson Wentz step forward, then I don't really see. Maybe they pick up an additional win week 3 against Arizona, which I don't have them having. Maybe they squeak out that extra away game in Detroit. But even still, like even for me, like I don't know. So I don't think it makes them that much better. I see maybe best case for them 9-7.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But I would say probably 8-8, and then maybe drop Detroit to 7-9. Worst case. So I
like Matthews. I like Matthews' record for us better.
I think it does. It obviously makes them better, right? But I don't know. Especially with that contract they gave him, it's going to be rough. So second part of that question. And Matthew, I let you start off on this, so I'll let you start off on this topic too. Was this a smart move or a dumb move by the Oakland Raiders?
By the Raiders?
Yeah.
I think this is one of those situations where both teams are winners. I mean, I think that you hear that sometimes, and I think that this is one of those cases. And I think from everything I've heard, people are going to think that's crazy. But if you look at it, they clearly had no intention of signing him to that big of a contract. And so the haul you get back, you actually get back a good amount of value for a guy you were going to let walk.
And everybody knew he was gone.
Right. I mean, look at Le'Veon Bell. The Steelers are in the same situation, but they can't get anything back for him that's the real value for him. I think this is the closest you're going to get to his actual value with the situation they were in. Everybody knew they didn't want to resign him. But I also think it shows that Gruden has turned a corner, because I've said it all along, Gruden has always been a veteran lover. He could not stand younger guys when he was first coaching. He used to get rid of the younger players and draft picks like crazy to get vets. And I think you're seeing him turn a corner. He sees now that you have to develop those young guys. You can't just go get a bunch of old guys and plug them in and have sustained success. So I think his years in the booth have allowed him to change his ways. And I think it's going to be great for the Raiders in that sense, because it stinks to lose a guy like Mac. But if you think about the pieces they can get back, I know what happened with the Rams and the Redskins. I know that you can get a haul back and it not pan out, but I think that the situation they were in, they weren't going to get anything back for him more than this. So I think it's a smart move for both sides.
I agree with it's a smart move for both sides. If you heard the John Gruden presser today, the signing Mac was never going to happen.
Right.
They weren't just a couple million off. I mean, they weren't even close to the offer.
Close, yeah.
The funny thing, though, is about talking about going towards youth. If I remember correctly, I think I heard today the Raiders has the oldest roster in the NFL.
But he's
and they also traded a 3rd-round pick from Martavis Bryant. So I'm gonna wait to see if he actually holds on to this draft capital before I say he's actually changing.
They actually cut Bryant, didn't they?
They traded a 3rd-round pick for him and then they cut him before they even know if he's going to be suspended indefinitely. But It's
I agree with you. It's still
no. I think it's a good
but
point. I just don't, I'm not there yet.
he's at least not throwing.
I
A
mean,
ton of money at
they
him.
brought Doug Martin there to back up Marshawn Lynch. I don't.
Yeah.
But no, I know I know where you're going. I'm just
hopeful.
giving Gruden the whole
I'm
time.
hopeful for the Raiders.
But I think it's a good because you're not getting anything for. I mean, you're not gonna sign Max. I mean, you're not gonna just not play him and get nothing for him. So you get what you can for him. I don't know. You kind of feel bad for Raiders fans, not really, but like if you actually care about Raiders fans, you're losing your team and you just lost your best player. So, but I think for the Raiders I think it was the best move they could make. I mean, I don't think I can knock them for it because they weren't gonna get him back. So.
Well, I mean, to your point, I mean that's a good thing for the Raiders fans in Oakland who wanted to see him fail.
Yeah, but now they don't have a football team.
Yeah. But now they can jump ship and maybe hop on that Chargers bandwagon or that Rams bandwagon.
Yeah.
I think this is an excellent move by the Oakland Raiders. An excellent move. I won't even say just good. I'm saying 100% excellent for one reason and one reason alone. And that's because they are moving to Las Vegas. Khalil Mack, they obviously aren't winning games with him. Why pay him if you're not winning the games anyway? Now you've got 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years when you're going to be heading to Vegas. You can get like some superstars to like really bring in that new fandom to the sport in Vegas. So I think it's a fantastic move, not only from the football side, because you're probably going to end up with, I don't think they're going to be like fighting for a top 2 pick, honestly. But I think that you can at least they can at least get in position to end up with like Nick Bosa. I don't think they're going to be up there enough to get Ed Oliver, but at least get a decent pass rush replacement for him. Maybe one of those Clemson defensive tackles. So I don't think they're in a bad position, really.
No, and what you brought up too is they weren't winning with Khalil Mack, right? And if you look at that defense, it wasn't good with Khalil Mack. So why would you pay a guy what he's gonna make?
It's more than just Khalil Mack away from
when you have that many holes on defense to replace. I mean, if you pay him, you're not fixing those holes on defense. So I mean, they came out in a good spot, I think, after this trip.
And for the Bears, you can argue that they were a Khalil Mack away from being an elite defense.
Yep.
So with Trevathan and now you add Roquan Smith, you've got decent corners with Fuller, Callahan, and Amukamara, and then you've got Adrian Amos in that secondary holding down that safety spot. Like, you can argue that Khalil Mack is all that they were missing from that team. They're potentially like you guys, and like we've said, they're potentially a playoff team now if Mitchell Trubisky can play Case Keenum. If he can play Case Keenum level, like, they're good. So, man, week 1 is going to be fun. Emmons is going to get like a are you going to the game, Emmons, or are you selling your tickets?
No, I'm not going to the game. I don't have tickets. I didn't pull the trigger.
Okay. So we've got Sam Darnold starting week 1 for the Jets against the Lions. After they traded Teddy Bridgewater to the Saints. So I guess before we dive into the Sam Darnold thing, Emmons, why don't you tell me about the Teddy B trade and what you think about it?
I think it was a good move by the Jets. And, I mean, I don't really think it hurts the Saints either. It's another weird trade where I think both teams – I don't remember the exact details of the trade, but I think almost both teams come out somewhat winners. Drew Brees isn't going to play forever. Teddy Bridgewater was a solid quarterback when he was healthy, if he can stay healthy. Scary knee injury he suffered, so I'm interested to see how he'll look in real game time. But if you're the Jets, they got a third-round pick for him?
Yep, third-round pick.
Yeah, you're getting a guy – we were talking about last week or the week before that, go ahead and get a 7th for him if you can. They came out with a 3rd, so nothing crazy in the deal, but I think it's a good move for the Jets because, like we talked about, I wasn't on the camp of keeping him there to put under to have Darnold under his wing. I think it was a good move getting rid of him, getting that 3rd-round pick for a team that still has some holes.
I think I don't know. It works. I agree with John. I ain't got anything else to add to that.
I don't look at this more for like the Jets side. Yeah, they got a 3rd-round pick. That third round pick could end up being Yannick Ngakoue, like Ngakoue has been for the Jags, or he could just end up being a complete bust and he doesn't live out his rookie contract. I think the Saints got the good end of the deal on this one. I think because number one, they can if they see enough in Teddy, they can say, okay, Teddy, we're going to sign you long term because Breeze isn't going to play forever. So you're going to be our future quarterback at least for the next 4 years. Or if Breeze gets hurt because he's now 39, the Saints now have a Nick Foles type who can step in, play pretty well in that offense, and then still potentially deliver them a Super Bowl victory, which basically with that trade of 2 first-round picks for Marcus Davenport, they're all in on a Super Bowl victory this year, I think. So
I think
but I think if you look at it for the Jets, I mean, you're really kind of getting back a little bit of what you traded up, to get Darnold in the first place. And, if you weren't going to play Teddy, it just makes – I think this is another one of those ones where it's win-win. Because like what you said, now the Saints, they're just like the Rams in a lot of ways where they're all in, like you said. But if they don't win it this year, they're without a first and a third this year, which is interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
If you don't win it.
I think it's interesting to see what Sean Payton can do with Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to have a couple packages or something for him.
So do you think he actually plays quarterback this year, even if Breeze stays healthy?
I think you have a couple games where he gets in there. I mean, if they get leads and things like that, I think they try to get him a little acclimation and see what he can do. I mean, if you're going to send a third rounder for a guy and you've already lost your first because of what you did, I think you got to play him a little bit and at least see. I mean, almost like, you got to see what you got before you got to make a decision.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, so what are your guys' thoughts on Sam Darnold starting over Josh McCown?
Why not? I think I don't think anybody's ever ready to step into that position right away. But if you're the Jets, I don't see them losing. I don't think Darnold's at the same point where I think a guy like Josh Allen's at, where he's going to hurt himself by playing right away. He's not playing a stout Detroit defense. I mean, he is coming into a tough place to play, but I think it's a good game to open up against for him.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
I think Todd Bowles is was kind of in the same type of predicament that Jeff Fisher was. I mean, I don't think he hates Darnold like Jeff Fisher seemed to hate Jared Goff, but I think that he's in that hot seat like Jeff Fisher was. And if he didn't play Darnold and they lost, let's say they started out really rough in the beginning of the season, 1-3 or something like that, you've got to imagine that he would be so bad, well, why didn't you start Darnold and stuff like that? So I think that he's not like comfortable, like if this was, a guy who wasn't on the hot seat, he could have maybe more time to not start him. But I think he's got to kind of throw him out there and hope that it sparks the team, because he's got to get wins this year.
I think and this is like a huge hypothetical, obviously, I think if the Patriots never traded Jimmy Garoppolo, kept him, Tom Brady retires this season, right? Doesn't play this upcoming year. He retires. Gronk retires. Now that kind of opens up the AFC East a little bit. I think that Darnold would not start. I think McCown would be the starter, because I think McCown right now is probably the better quarterback between the two of them. Yeah, but with Brady still there, there's no point not to play Sam.
That's what my thing is. It's why not?
So yeah, I'm agreeing with you. There's no point not to play him.
Right.
Him getting into games when you don't really have the roster to match the Patriots. Why, like you said, why not?
Yeah,
you might as well get him in and get him acclimated, so that way when you have a roster to match them in 2 to 3 years and Brady's gone, bam, Darnold's ready. Darnold's not just now stepping in 2 to 3 years later and learning the ropes. Right. Then you're moving on from there. So like you said, why not? It's good. I think it's a good. I think it's a good move. The move that I don't understand is the Bills starting Nathan Peterman week 1 and trading away A.J. McCarron after you just signed him to a free agent deal. So you play Nathan Peterman.
Go ahead. I'll be right back. Go ahead, Matthew. Lead up with this.
The guy throws 5 interceptions in the first half of the first game he starts last season. and then he throws an interception to close out your playoff game against Jacksonville. He didn't look good at all last year. And, they said his body of work looks great in the offseason. He looks good in training camp. Well, that's fantastic. He's playing your own defense. And he didn't. I don't think he started right like in the preseason. So he was playing. He was playing like second stringers. So yeah, he might have looked good in the preseason, but now you're gonna get big time, and you're gonna face who's their week 1 opponent.
Oh.
Let's see. Their week 1 opponent is the Ravens. So you got Terrell Suggs breathing down your neck like right away, week 1. You've got Jimmy Smith, who's like a top 10 corner, arguably, that you're going to have to throw against. Like not Marlon Humphreys, C.J. Mosley. C.J. Mosley's a top 5 linebacker, and I don't care what anybody says. He is a top 5 linebacker. That defense is rough. And to throw Nathan Peterman out there against that, boy.
That young secondary that can fly around the ball, if you don't read the window right, they're going to pick it. So he might have 7 picks in the first half.
I wouldn't be surprised if Peterman starts the first 4 games, no matter how bad he does, because they have Ravens, Chargers, Vikings, and Packers. And then Josh Allen takes over from there because their defensive schedule gets a little bit easier than those first 4 games.
So that's an interesting point. Maybe they saw that and were like, you know what? Let's save our boy from just getting absolutely embarrassed instead of shaking his confidence. Because we've always heard about that. Like the theory is that if you just destroy a kid's confidence as a quarterback, you can't get it back. So you might have a great point that they're like, you know what? We don't like Peterman. Let's just let him go out there and make a fool of himself, and then we'll bring in Josh Allen.
The problem is that after those 4 games, the defenses get a little bit more lax, but not much. Not much because they have
week 5.
They have the Texans. Week 5 they have the Titans. So the Titans aren't a fantastic defense, but they're good. They're on their way. But then you have the Texans. Then you play the Colts and then the Patriots. And the Patriots don't have big names on defense, but they're always stout.
Belichick is going to scheme.
And then you have the Bears, who just added Khalil Mack. Oh my God. And then 2 weeks after that, you have the Jaguars.
Oh God.
So I don't know where they're going to finally plug Allen into this equation.
Maybe they don't. Maybe they're like, let's let this kid develop on the sideline. That's schedule. That's rough.
I think the weird thing about the move, which I'm sure you guys already mentioned, I can see if you start AJ McCarron after Josh said originally you just signed him to a contract and let Allen develop, but now you're telling me you trade him for a 5th round pick
to the Raiders of all teams, by the way.
Raiders.
Oh, and then, I have a question about that trade after this conversation. So go ahead. And
then you come out and say, all right, we're gonna start a guy who we have nothing he's not getting better. We're going to come out and start Nathan Peterman, who apparently they have this huge fascination with if they're going to get rid of McCarron and still not start Josh Allen. I don't think Josh Allen's ready for the NFL yet, but I don't know if I want them to start Peterman over Allen. But, hey, I guess it's being a Bills fan.
I will say I don't think Peterman makes it to week 5 as the starter.
I agree.
He may not survive the actual physical nature of those games. I mean, that's rough.
He might break the single season record for interceptions in 4 games.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Buffalo's another situation that I look at like the Broncos of last year and the Bears of this year. Is their defenses look really good, but it doesn't matter if your quarterback play is atrocious.
Right.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
gotta have a quarterback.
I feel like the Bills are just the Bills and the Bears both could potentially be the Broncos of 2018. It'll be that whole division is going to be really fun to watch this year. That whole AFC East is going to be really fun. It really makes me want to go back and change my predictions now because I think the Dolphins are going to end up winning more than 1 game like I originally predicted. All right, so let's hop into our last preview that we're going to do, and that's going to be the NFC South. And this division's loaded with talent as far as teams go. So, Emmons, I'll let you start us off, buddy. Start at number 4, go to number 1. Who do you have at number 4 in the NFC South?
I am pulling it up right now, but I can already tell you who I have at number 4. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Anybody want to guess how many wins I have him at? It's a grand total of 1. I have him going 1-15. No Jameis to start. And you're at New Orleans. You're playing Philly, at Pittsburgh, and then at Chicago, who just added Khalil Mack. And then you go into a bye, and you play at Atlanta. Cleveland's a winnable game, I guess. I can see them winning like 2 to 3 games, I guess, but I have them at 1-15. Third place, I have the Panthers coming in at 9-7. I think that division's. I just don't know what I'm getting out of that Carolina roster in that division. And then I have I have the Falcons coming in at second at 11-5, and then I have the Saints coming in at 13-3.
Okay. Matthew, what's your division standings looks like for the NFC South?
I have the same 3-4 as him. I have the Bucks at 3-13, Panthers at 8-8, but I have the Falcons and Saints flipped with the same records that you had, John. I have the Saints at 11-5 and Falcons 13-3. I think that this is that bounce back year for Atlanta. They just got too much talent.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's clearly the Saints have a lot of talent too, but
I have the same standings as Emmons does. I have the Bucks at 1-15 as well.
Nice. I thought you were going to pull the trigger on 0-16.
No, I was going to, but I changed. I gave them a win against.
But you have the beating.
I gave them a win against Washington Week 10 at home.
That's exactly what I have.
So that's the one win I have them winning. Third place in the division, 9-7. I also have the Carolina Panthers.
Nice.
If I didn't have the Saints at the record that I have them at, I would have them going 8-8 with a loss to New Orleans in Week 17. But I have the Falcons finishing second place at 12-4, and then the Saints winning the division at 14-2. So that means I have them going 14-1 heading into Week 17,
nice.
and resting starters. So I have them losing to Carolina that game. So that's the only reason they're there. So go ahead.
Go ahead. For the record, Browns, Bengals, and Skins is who I had.
See, I think those are the 3 games that are winnable. For them.
Browns, Bengals, and Skins.
And Skins. That's who I had.
I agree. I could see all 3 of those games being wins. I could see. I do think Washington is going to be better than even I gave them credit for. I put them at 4-12. I could see them being better, but it'll be tough, I think. So let's talk about our playoff.
The fun part of this.
Yeah, let's talk about our playoff teams. Run us through, Matthew. Run me through your 1 through 6 seeds.
Hold on, let me pull it up.
Sure.
You can go ahead, John.
You got yours ready, John, or you want me to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. So 14-2 at the 1 seed, I have the Saints, and then the 13-3, the 2 seed, I have as the Eagles. 3 seed also at 13-3, I have the Packers. 4th seed at 11-5 is the Rams. 5th seed at 12-4 is the Vikings, and then 6th seed at 12-4 is the Falcons. So that would put the first playoff matchup as the 3 seed Packers against the 6 seed Falcons, and I would take the Packers to win that game. And then the 5 seed Vikings against the 4 seed Rams, and I would take the Vikings to win that game. So that pushes the Vikings against the Saints, and I'll take the Saints to win a rematch of that playoff matchup from last year. And then with the Packers against the Eagles, I'm going to take the Packers there. So that puts Packers and Saints in my NFC Championship game. So go ahead, John. Who do you have? And then we'll talk about Super Bowl after we break that down.
I got coming in at the 1 seed at 13-3. I believe the Saints. I have the Saints as the 1 seed. I got Philly coming in at the 2 seed at 12-4. And then I got Minnesota at 11-5, winning the North, winning some whatever tiebreaker with Green Bay they win. 4th seed got the Rams. 5 I got Green Bay. 6 I have Atlanta. And so that would give me matchups: the 3 and 6 game, Minnesota versus Atlanta, which to where I love this Vikings team. I think they're loaded. I take the Vikings over Atlanta, which would be a tough game, but at home. And then I have the 4 and the 5, which would be the Rams and Green Bay, which I would then take Green Bay. And then the 1 and the 5 would be New Orleans versus Green Bay. I take the Saints. And then in the NFC Championship, then I have the Vikings beating the Eagles in the 2 and 3 game. Then I'll have a rematch of the Vikings and the Saints in the NFC Championship.
All right, Matthew, break down your playoffs for us on the NFC
I
side.
have the Eagles at 1, Falcons at 2, Rams at 3, and Vikings at 4. Saints at 5. Ready for my 6? Chicago Bears knock out the Packers. If I had the Mac trade, I would move up the Bears to the 2nd in the NFC North. And therefore, in the wild card weekend, I have the Rams in playing the Bears. But I think that's where the Rams are 1 year ahead of them, and they get that win.
Yep.
It's interesting how that played out from the way I had it out here. And I have like you said, I have the Saints winning the rematch against the Vikings. So I have the Rams traveling to the Falcons and the Falcons winning. And I have the Saints traveling to the Eagles and the Eagles winning to get a rematch. So the NFC is going to end the way they started. Eagles-Falcons.
Eagles-Falcons. Okay, so you got Matthew's got Eagles-Falcons. I've got Packers-Saints. And Emmons has Saints-Vikings as our NFC Championship games. I think between my two, between Packers and Saints, I'm gonna say the Saints pull out the win against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So I have the Saints moving on to play in the Super Bowl against the Los Angeles Chargers is who I picked from the AFC.
Yeah, so this one I went back and, like, honest to God, I've gone back and forth in this Minnesota Vikings New Orleans Saints matchup probably at least 8 times, and I have a fascination for the Minnesota Vikings. I think they somehow find their way into the Super Bowl to go up against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I have the Falcons beating the Eagles.
So
Who'd you have from the AFC, Matthew? I don't know if we ever went through your AFC playoffs.
You didn't, because that's when I was.
Yeah, he was
Right.
missing time because of class and stuff, I think. So, you want to?
I do have it. I do have it being the Jaguars in the AFC though.
Okay.
All right. So we've got Falcons versus Jaguars. Who'd you have? Vikings versus Jags, and then I had Chargers versus Saints. So that'll be fun. So now we got to pick our winners. We got to pick
Yep.
our winners. Emmons, why don't you start? I'll let you start. Pick the winners.
You're gonna hate me, Josh.
Hey man, I didn't even. I had the Jags getting eliminated in the AFC Championship again to a different team.
I think upgrading from Case Keenum to a guy like Kirk Cousins, who he's got to prove himself a little more, but it's an upgrade with all those weapons that the Vikings already have there in place for him. And that defense, I think it's going to be pretty much the same as it was last year. I see the Vikings beating the Jags. I'll say 27-21. I think the Minnesota Vikings will win the Super Bowl for the NFC North.
All right.
My turn.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
31-10.
Dang.
Jaguars beat the Falcons.
Wow. Oh.
Woo!
31-10.
Falcons don't get a chance to blow a lead.
I will say that if that game does happen, I could very well see Ramsey shadowing Julio Jones,
Yeah.
and making that very tough for Matt Ryan. I actually like that. I really like that matchup for the Jags because Telvin Smith and Miles Jack can match Tevin Coleman and
Ridley
and Freeman very well.
But I mean, you got to think about them hitting those deep zones with Ridley in the middle. They'd be able to get back on that too.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got Boye as well on the outside. So like I actually really like the Jags in that matchup. With Chargers and Saints. Obviously Saints are going all in. I really like the Chargers. I don't know why. I just really like the Chargers.
I love the Chargers too. It was really hard for me not to put them over the Jags, but
the only reason that I put the Chargers over the Jags is because I gave the Chargers home field, and the Jags do not play well on the West Coast, and they would have to travel to the West Coast.
Right.
I will take the Chargers over the Saints in the Super Bowl. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I'm gonna say 14-13. I'll take 14-13, low-scoring game in that one.
See, I had the Chargers beating the Jags.
So I guess
Chargers losing to the Jags in the second round.
Besides our own matchup, I guess I'll start with Josh. Which one would be your favorite matchup, Josh, between the two Jaguar possibly? Like favorite one to watch, not your favorite, not the one that you think the Jags would win easier, but just like your most entertaining Super Bowl to watch.
I would say the Vikings because I think the Jags really do match up against the Falcons well, and kind of like Matthew said, I don't know that it would be that great of a game.
Yeah.
I
think Vikings and Jags
because I will say I said last year the Jags match up really well against the Patriots, and they really did. Like that first half was really scary if you were a Patriots fan, which Matthew is. And I will say that if Doug Marrone wasn't so scared to let Bortles and would let him throw the ball a little more in that second half, Jacksonville probably would have won that game and moved on to the Super Bowl.
And I think he's learned his lesson. I mean, I would hope that he's learned from that. That he wouldn't do that in the same situation.
I will say one thing. In my favorite matchup would have been you had the Chargers and the Saints, right, Josh?
Right.
Who'd you have winning? The Chargers?
Chargers.
I think just out of curiosity, that would be. I would love to see the Chargers play the Saints. I'd probably have to take the Saints in that game, though.
I'm okay with that. The biggest mismatch, I think, in that game would be Alvin Kamara against the linebackers of the Chargers, because I think Casey Hayward on Michael Thomas is a fantastic matchup. I think Trevor Williams against Ted Ginn is also a very good matchup. So I think it's a good matchup across the board, wide receiver wise.
Yeah.
Neither team really has a tight end that stands out since Hunter Henry is going to be out for the year. Both have excellent quarterbacks. Both teams have excellent running backs. I think it would come down to the linebackers versus the running back matchups on both teams, and how well they can stop the run. But I'll take the Chargers.
So ending it with you, Matthew. Which between the Chargers, Saints, and Jags, Vikings, which one would you rather watch?
I'd rather watch Jags, Vikings if it's between those two games.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's really two similar teams. I feel like I'd be watching the same.
That's why I'm really
kinda
glad my playoff predictions and seeding and everything ended up the way it did, so I could have those two playing each other. Because I feel like that'd be a really fun game to watch. I am really happy with one thing, that not one of us agreed with whoever was going to win the Super Bowl. So we had, for as similar as our division predictions were, we had different stuff in the playoffs, and each had a different Super Bowl champion.
That's true.
That's fun. That's good stuff. Especially because our standings were like so close. Mirrored
they were.
the year.
I think, as talented as the NFC is, especially, I don't think it's too hard. I mean, given it probably won't end up, and me saying this will probably end up biting me in the ass, I don't think it's too hard to predict how the divisions are going to end up, but who knows? I probably just put myself out there right there to be wrong in the long run.
Yeah, Bears end up winning the NFC North. The Seahawks win the NFC West.
Yeah, oh god.
It just flips all over. The Cowboys actually win the division again. I don't know what's going to
happen. Yeah, that's not going to happen. They're terrible.
So
the Cowboys.
So let's close out the show. Let's move on to pick'ems for week 2 of the college football season and week 1 of the NFL season.
So,
let's talk about our results for week 1, though, shall we?
I got the standings pulled up right now. Josh made me and Matthew look laughable, going 5-0.
5-0.
Me and Matthew both went 3-2. The games Matthew had wrong were the Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
He picked Michigan against Notre Dame, and then he picked the Miami over LSU. I picked Washington over Auburn. I should have gone with the SEC school in Auburn, then I picked Miami also to beat LSU, which another SEC team. Josh came out looking like the genius.
5-0, boys. That feels.
Me and Matthew just wanted to make you feel good about yourself before we take this away from you.
That feels good. Let me tell you, that feels good. So let's move into him this week.
Let's
move into him this week. So week 1, or not week 1, but our first game that we have is against 2 ranked SEC teams. So Emmons, between Georgia, number 3 Georgia, and number 24 South Carolina. Who are you taking?
At South Carolina. I think it could be a tricky game for Georgia. I just think Georgia and Jake Fromm are too talented to. I think it's gonna be close going into the fourth quarter. I think Georgia closes out, wins by like 14 or 17.
Okay. What you got, man?
I think it's Georgia on a blowout.
I will take Georgia as well because I really like Jake Fromm, and I think he's got it.
You should have to pick first.
You want me to pick first? I can do that.
Yeah, the 5-0, man.
All right, I can.
It doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't, because I'm not going to change.
Second game.
Right,
second game of the
my
week.
pick set.
Second game of the week, we got Clemson, number 2 Clemson going up at Texas A&M. I'll take Clemson in that game. It's not even a question. The only reason that game's even on there is because there were very little Power 5 versus Power 5 games week 2, and that was one of them. So I'll take Clemson over Texas A&M.
Is Kevin Sumlin still somehow? No, Jimbo Fisher's a Texas A&M coach, isn't he? Yeah, that doesn't change anything for me. Clemson big, 25+.
It doesn't change anything. Clemson big as well. However, I do want to point out, John, between the two of us, you did say 2 top 25 teams would lose to unranked teams, and that didn't happen.
I will say one thing though. I was wrong.
Weekend in that sense. I agree. It would have been more exciting. But
It was it was really weird
It was.
with how many chances. I mean, Michigan State almost lost. Penn State. There's another game I told you guys to keep an eye on that was close too, but I don't remember which game that was. But yeah, it was scary for a lot of teams. I didn't want my own team to be involved in that possibility.
That one.
And they almost were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So-
they weren't far off from doing that.
So we've got, as our final college game of the week, we've got number 15 Michigan State versus Arizona State. So Emmons, this is your team, so I'll let you start, buddy. Who are you taking?
This is a really tricky game for us going out west. It's going to be over 100 degrees. Arizona State plays the same style of football Utah State does. They're not going to huddle up. They're going to play really fast. They're going to throw the ball. Typically, D'Antonio comes out after week 1 struggling and plays a really good week 2. I still take us, but it's going to be another scary game for me. It's going to be another nerve-wracking game for me. But I'll take Michigan State by 10.
Okay. With this Michigan State versus Arizona State matchup, I'm taking Arizona State to upset Michigan State in this one. So that's going to be my upset for the week. I think that's where it goes. What are your thoughts
Michigan
on
State.
it, Matthew? You're breaking
Michigan
inside
State.
Michigan State. Okay.
Michigan State's going to win it.
All right. So that'll be done with our college for the week. We're going to move on to our NFL. We got 4 NFL games we're going to pick. First one is the opener, Thursday night, Atlanta Falcons at Philadelphia Eagles.
Spicy matchup to start out the year.
I'm going to take the Atlanta Falcons to start 1-0 over the Philadelphia Eagles. Nick Foles won them a Super Bowl, but I don't think the teams were prepared to face Nick Foles. I think they're prepared to face Nick Foles now. I'll take Falcons over Eagles.
This is hilarious because I'm probably going to go against whatever I predicted every single time. Like we pick these games now. Yeah, I'm going Atlanta. I think Atlanta can beat Philly in Philly. I think, like you said, I think they're ready this time around to play Nick Foles. I'll take Atlanta in a close one, 27-24. I think I'm going to guess and say Matthew's going to pick Atlanta too. He seems to really like Atlanta.
Yeah, I would think so as well.
I'll get his pick for the record later on.
Yeah, that's fine. So second game, Jacksonville Jaguars versus New York Giants. Emmons, lay it on me, dude. Just give me the cold hard truth.
It's in New York, but I think Jacksonville's defense, Ramsey on OBJ or Boye, it doesn't really matter. I think Jacksonville wins by 10.
If Barkley puts up 100 yards, Jacksonville loses this game.
You guys struggled against the run last year, right?
Flat out, yes. We did until we added Marcel Darius. Once we added
Right.
Marcel Darius, our run defense jumped tremendously. If Barkley has a 100-yard game, we lose 100%.
So I guess are you on a scale of 1 to 10? Like how worried are you?
I would say I'm like a 6.5.
See, that's where I'm at for the Michigan State game.
I would say I'm a 6.5 just for the simple fact that there's been a lot of offseason drama this year for us. And I'm okay with it because guys could get fiery. If we lose this game, I think it could kind of humble our guys again and propel us forward better than we are right now. I will still take Jacksonville to win this game in New York. So then we got our next game, which is Matthew's team, and he's not even here. The Houston Texans versus the New England Patriots. This is a really interesting game for me because the Texans actually have every single player that you would want them to have with Clowney and Merciless and Watt and Watson. So, and the Patriots do not have Julian Edelman. So it's a really interesting game for this one. I'm actually going to take the Texans to beat the Patriots in New England. With that second game or the third game.
I'm sticking with what gave you a mouth drop when I said it originally when I'm predicting the schedule, and I think Houston takes this game at New England. I think New England bounces back fine, but I think Houston can shock them and win that game.
Patriots. We're not going to lose 2 openers in a row, friends.
So Atlanta Falcons and Eagles, who you got?
Yeah, I've got a fascinating stat for you to tell you why I'm voting for the Eagles. I'm not voting for the Eagles.
I will pull up another fascinating stat to support Josh's upset in college football. Big Ten teams are 0-9 going to Arizona State.
So that's fascinating. It's not going to happen though. Super Bowl winners
I hope not.
and season openers, since they've gone to this format of them playing the first game, they are 12-3, friends. So the Eagles are going to beat the Falcons.
Okay. All right. See, I thought you'd go with the Falcons. I'm
All
glad
right.
you came back.
Jaguars versus Giants. Who you got?
Jags.
All right. We all took Jags on that one. Emmons and I both took Falcons. You're the only one that took Eagles. And then you're the only one that's taking Patriots. We're both taking Texans.
Oh, well, that I got 2.
And that's moving us on to our final game, and that's the New York Jets versus John Evans' Detroit Lions in Detroit. This is a tricky game, I think, for both teams.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the Lions on this one. I think Darnold's first game in a dome. It's opening week. I just don't see it. So I'll take the Lions.
For my own sanity, I have to believe that the Lions are better than they looked in the preseason. And I think I do really believe they are. This is a tricky game for us. I do think we end up winning. I think Stafford versus Darnold. I'm going to take Stafford. And the weapons we have on offense, I think they can get it together. And the defense is a huge question for me, but I think we can outscore the Jets with Sam Darnold. So I'll take the Lions.
Okay.
Jets. Jets pull off the upset.
What does Darnold's stat line look like?
I think he goes 14 of 25, but I think he just doesn't throw the picks. And I think that Jets defense is going to surprise some people this year. They're going to play much better than I think a lot of people expect. And I think that they get a couple of turnovers and make it easy on the kid. I think they shock the world.
Shock the world. I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't think I can easily see the Lions losing that game.
Or the rookie quarterback who's not really expected to.
The Lions have made plenty of quarterbacks look beautiful in games.
Then there you go.
History.
They're still going to shock the world.
Matt Flynn.
They're going to shock your world. They're going to shock your world, John.
They wouldn't really shock me, to be honest. I'd be upset, but I'd be not shocked at all.
All right, so that's going to close out our show for this week. We'll be back next Tuesday. We'll update you on how our pick'ems went. We'll talk about some of the results from week 2 of the college season and week 1 of the NFL. We're also probably going to cover MLB because that'll be coming even closer to a close in the coming weeks. So those will probably be our 3 staple topics over the next couple weeks. Is going to be the MLB playoff race, college football, and NFL football. So that, like I said, that's going to be it for this show. John, Matthew, thank you guys again for being here for another great show.
You won't be 5-0 anymore.
Oh, we'll see. You're right. You're right, buddy. I'm going to be 13-0 because we did 8 games. I'm going to be 13-0. So that's going to be it. Thank you for watching so much. If you watch it on YouTube, thank you as well for going back and watching it on YouTube. We'll be right back here, same place, next Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So everybody have a good night. Thank you again.